Hi, welcome to Healing Humanity. I want to talk to you today about what we're all seeking. So, a lot of us are, not even a lot, so many of us are out here searching for something to guide our lives, something that is bigger than us, that can understand us and can understand the pain that we're going through, can guide us in those weak moments, can help us through the anger or process the anger. This world, as we're seeing day after day, there are things in this world that we can't explain. Many of us would never do some of the things that we're hearing about, right? But they're happening. And we are left with having to process that. My fear is that, our children, my children, my children's children, they don't they didn't have the strong foundation that they need to know what to go back to. You see, for me, although I stopped going to church when I was 12 or 13 years old, I did have a foundation. My mother did take us to church on a fairly regular basis. Um, and so I knew that there was some place for me to go to when life was just so chaotic, and it was for me. And through that process, I got baptized and went through various different classes to become part of the church again, and that was all great. And during that same time, I had gotten sick, and I had told somebody. I've talked about this before, but I had a conversation this weekend where we were talking about receiving God's light and understanding that process and what that looks like. And it surprised me that he didn't know that I had already received God's light in my life. And he acted as if he didn't know. And I thought, well, that's odd because I've talked about it several times. But what it made me realize is that if we don't keep talking about it, people, you don't hear until you're ready to hear. And that's something I absolutely realize in my journey, is that you can hear something from somebody a thousand different times in a thousand different ways, but until you are ready to hear it, truly hear it and understand it, it's just going to pass you by. And so here I am again. Let's talk about it. So when I got sick, I was finding God and going back to church, got baptized, which is very important. We're to be washed with, the waters, and I had found a church I was comfortable with at that time. Um, but I also found sometime after that I was sick, and so I went searching for different healing and meditations and how to calm my body and move my body differently and just things to try to start healing, right? And one of the things that I found was laying on of hands. Um, and when I received that, one of the one of the first three times, I think on the third occasion, I was receiving some treatments. They called it Reiki, but it's laying on of hands. And the woman had her hands like over my head, and I just kept thinking about all these things that just really stressed me out my whole life, right? Things I was carrying around in my heart, I guess. Um, Jealousies, anger, frustrations, anger. um, just so many things that from my past, and from my current time at that time, things that I couldn't do anything about, but were just sitting with me. Like I had to control it, but I didn't know how. And things from my past that I couldn't control or I couldn't stop or I couldn't change. And I thought, I'm never going to relax like this ever. And just as I was thinking that, she got down to just above my heart. Now she wasn't actually touching my body, although some do. I've had people laying hands on me with actually touching my body. She did not. She was above my body, but I could feel something changing, and I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna cry. And at that time, I was not a crier. Crying was not an option. It was never in the in the realm of my reality. Very rarely would you see me break down in tears. But she had her hands over my heart area, and I thought, "Oh my God, I'm going to cry. I'm not relaxing. This is crazy. What am I going to do?" And then all of a sudden, she heard it and I heard it, and it went this big pop. I don't know if you can hear that over this system, but this big pop happened, and my this white light kind of flooded from my heart to my head. And I didn't know what it was, and I couldn't speak, I couldn't see. Um, and it lasted for maybe less than a minute, but it was enough that it just filled me with light, and it just felt so peaceful. And I cried and I cried and I cried, and I just had water just flowing from everywhere. Um, and when I was shaky, I remember that I was a little shaky, just trying to sit up. And she said she had seen this before, just to drink some water and just sit on the table, not to get up. I thought, okay, and so I did. And like I said, I continued to just release a lot of that frustration that I was feeling just a few minutes before. And I wasn't even thinking about it anymore, but it just the tears. It was like as the tears were running, all of the drama was running with them, and all of the anger was just flowing out. It was no longer in me. And when I got off that table, I I just felt different. I felt lighter. I felt um, curious for sure that I didn't know what that was. Um, and then so I started looking into that and then asking more questions and searching a little bit and digging deeper in the Bible, trying to understand, and didn't quite find what I was looking for. But then I thought, well, okay, well maybe it's this Reiki that's that allowed me to have this experience. And so I sought out learning Reiki and understanding hands-on healing, and becoming a channel for that healing energy. And um, and it was successful. I became a Reiki master. However, what I learned through that process um, was that it wasn't the Reiki that was the issue, the reason that I felt that peace, because it happened again. Different woman. The first woman was at the hospital, and she was just a Reiki practitioner. The second time were other students that came around me, and I had one other student, same as myself. I think they were all a little bit younger than me, but one student at my foot, one at my head, and one on either side of the table, laying their hands on me. I believe each one of them actually physically put their hands on me. And through that process, down in my lower abdomen, I heard and they all heard it too. I know the girl that was standing on this side of me definitely heard it, because she asked if I was all right. And I could barely speak, but I muttered, yeah. Um, but again, that happened, and the white light just flooded my entire body. And it was amazing, because I couldn't see, I couldn't get up. If I had tried, I couldn't have gotten up. But when I did get up, when it finally flowed through my entire body, when because it just filled me instantly. And once that sort of went away or dissipated, I don't even know how I came to see again. But when I was able to move and I got up, um, I remember sitting at the table, and I was shaking like this. And my whole body was just stimulated and shaking. And the teacher came over. She said that she had seen this before, a completely different woman than the one before. And she said, sit there, drink some water, and just relax. I thought, okay. And I couldn't have gotten off the table if I had wanted to at that point anyway. And so that sent me, because it was two different people, because it was the same thing but different, I was like, there's something more to this. And so I went searching. What is this? What is what does laying on the hands have to do with all this? And what is this light that I found, or that found me? I didn't find anything. It found me. And I started reading into the Bible, and there's 65 verses in the Bible about light. And I won't read them all to you. I'll leave it to you to kind of research that and look into that for yourself, because when we're all out here and we're stressing and we are aggravated with our lives and with the news and with the world, and with some of the depravity that is happening around us that maybe we don't even see, but we are aware of now. When we worry about things like that, where do you look to find that peace? Where do you go to find peace? When I was younger, I just went within, and I might have turned on some rock and roll and danced around the house, and that was about it. Thought that was the fix. But as I got older, that wasn't enough, and after receiving that light, it definitely wasn't enough. I had to search more. I had to understand more. Been out here just diving in as deep as I can get, as fast as I can get information. And what strikes me is that, there's so many different religions, hundreds of them, at least over 100 anyway. I don't know about hundreds, but over 100, definitely, different religions out here in the world. And like I said, we're all searching for something. We're all searching for that God, that one thing that can lead us. And what we don't realize is that when Jesus came, he brought that new covenant into the world, not just into a particular area, not just for one group of people. He came and brought it for all of us. And I watch so many people count on their magic and count on their spells and count on their incantations and all of this craziness. And you don't realize that it's already in you. Everything that you need is within you. And all you have to do is accept and activate it. You have to find the way to activate it. And everything that you need to know is in the Bible. No matter what religion you are, you're going to have to come to Jesus. And I know you're not going to want to hear that. I know that. We still fight today over which God is the true God and which religion is the true religion. And even the Jewish people have a hard time still believing in Jesus. But it has been written for you. Century after century, decade after decade of written information that tells us exactly what happened when Jesus came. He paved the way for all of us to not have to go behind the veil, to not have to count on a priest to lead us, that we could lead ourselves. Because God He wrote His word on our heart. It's available for you. And all you have to do is seek it and activate it and allow God to come into your life and make the changes that have to be made. And some of those changes are not easy. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not. I hear stories about, how, people talk about just like the glorious things that have happened after God got involved in their lives. That's well and good. it leads me to believe that perhaps they don't know, that they haven't dove completely in, because some of the things that God leads you through are not pretty. They're not life-giving. They are actually life-taking. Um, but he saves you from them. You know, he makes a way, but you have to walk that way. You have to choose the way with him. He can't do that for you. That's free will, right? He gave you free will, and he's not going to take that away from you. It's up to you to use it and use it wisely. And he hopes that you will choose him and choose the way and choose the righteous path. Um, and right now, I read something yesterday, and I couldn't help but say, "Wow." This is First Peter, 4 verse 17 through 19, and I want to read this to you because a lot of people don't understand what's going on in the world right now, um, or what's been happening. If you're surrounded in my life, you don't know what's been going on, and I think that this answers some of that. So he's talking to Christians, and he says, "For it is time for judgment to begin with the family of God." I'm going to repeat that. For it is time for judgment to begin with the family of God. And if it begins with us, what will the outcome be for those who do not obey the gospel of God? And let me tell you something. There's more. It has been so hard. And I have been trying to do the right things and to do what God wants me to do, to follow the righteous path, to change, change my ways. I didn't need to change much because that light gave that change to me immediately. But I have to choose to keep it. I could choose to go back and be whoever I was before. I could choose to, go out and maybe sleep around or drink alcohol or do whatever, but I don't choose that kind of path anymore. And but anyway, he continues on. Peter says, if it's hard for the righteous to be saved, what will become of the ungodly and the sinner? So then, those who suffer according to God's will should commit themselves to their faithful Creator and continue to do good. And that's where I'm at. I believe that I am faithful to my Creator. I believe that I try to live the best life I can and do His work for Him to the best of my ability, But I worry about everyone else that is out here looking to other gods, looking to fill empty spaces within themselves, not realizing that there's something bigger for you if you just look for it, in Jesus. Not to go all these other different places, because you're not going to find the availability of that light in all of these other places. It's not there. Evangelicals will tell you not to worry about it. Buddhism doesn't even talk about it at all. You have to, everyone, it says in the Bible, all people will come to Jesus. All. No matter how old their souls are, no matter where they come from, no matter what lands they live in, all people will eventually come to Jesus, because that's God's will. That's been the will since the beginning of time, going all the way back to the creation. That's what God wanted for all of us, is to be together. So anyway, the most important thing, I guess, to take from this is that there's something for you if you're seeking. And there's nothing else that will give you what Jesus can give you at all. That light is available for you. You just have to ask for it. And just lastly, when I was receiving Reiki for the first time, the woman asked me, who do you have a higher power? I said, yes, I guess I believe in God. And she called on God that first time. So I'm grateful that I said that, and I'm grateful that that's the way that it went, because I truly believe that had I said something else, or anything else, or had felt anything else, I don't know that I would have been the receiver of God's grace at that point. And it just struck me this weekend when I was talking to somebody that, I've told this story before, but maybe people weren't ready to listen. Maybe you are now. Anyway, until next time, just keep healing, nurture yourself, and keep living with intention.